Hey, business owner, that's you. Yeah, you. Today's guest has one bit of advice for all of us. Live and breathe only what you love. Heard it before? Me too. Thought it was a bit unrealistic? Possibly. After all, we've all got to make a quid. Well, we're about to be proved wrong. And that's not a bad thing. It's a glass half full, episode 602 of the 13-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of can-do marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. How? Good question. I have in-depth conversations week in, week out for the last 13 years with successful business owners and founders from around the world. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. That's what we do around here. That's why this show exists. You are in the right place. So, as per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in.
Hey, Tim, it's Cindy from Adubra Plumbing. I just wanted to compliment you on your personal growth through listening to your podcast. Two podcasts that stick out to me recently that I've listened to is the Loom Croissant interview with the lovely lady. I love that you kept it so real and so raw, and the honesty just was so authentic throughout that interview. It was just amazing. Thank you. And I've also just listened to Jason from the asbestos issue and him sharing about his struggles with, well, not so much his, but yeah, his brother's struggles with mental health and also being in business. It's a really massive issue. And I tell you what, I could just feel your compassion oozing through the podcast and the personal growth that I think you have also done since I ever started first listening to you many years ago. It was touching, and it was done in a really very authentic and kind way. Thanks for spreading the message. Thank you very much for all of the information that you share with us all the time. I'm really grateful, and it's a massive resource. Who needs to go to university when they've got Tim Reid's podcast? Thanks, Tim. Have a great day. Bye.
Cindy, firstly, thank you so much for being such a long-time listener and an attentive listener. So appreciated, and very, very kind words you had to share about my personal growth over the last 13 years. I mean, I get it. And, as business owners, our mental health is so important. I mean, as human beings, our mental health is important. But, for the sake of this show, this podcast, I am passionate and concerned for the well-being, mental well-being of you, the motivated business owner. So, as I always say, please find a mentor. Find someone that you can talk to in those lonely hours, in those desperate hours, or find someone to celebrate the little wins with, because we've all got to do that. But Cindy, I personally feel like I have grown over the last 13 years doing this podcast. You'd hope so, wouldn't you? Otherwise, was it worthwhile? And I hope I continue to grow. Everyone else, please be like Cindy and give me a buzz on 0480 015 150, or you'll find the number over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com on every single page. And let me know how you maintain a level head whilst running that beautiful business of yours. Thank you for everyone who fed back to me about episode 600, which was with the Coffin Confessor, aka Bill Edgar. An amazing episode about personal branding, about the power of publicity, etc., etc. Now, as you would have heard if you'd listened to that episode, Bill has signed a deal with Paramount Pictures. They're going to be creating a Hollywood blockbuster feature film about his life, and he couldn't reveal during the time of the interview who was going to play him in the movie. Well, he rang me yesterday and he could tell me that Marlon Wayans, or Wayans, Wayans, is the actor that will be playing Bill. I'd not heard of him, I've got to say, but he was in Requiem for a Dream. He's been in Marmaduke, G.I. Joe, The Heat, a few films that I've heard about, but been in a lot of films. But that is who will be playing the coffin confessor, Bill Edgar, in that upcoming blockbuster. Episode 600, if you haven't listened to it, between you and I, it's worth a listen, an incredible story. Righto, let's meet today's guest, Michelle Christoe. Well, she's the co-founder of NightQuarter, which is an immersive live entertainment precinct on Australia's beautiful Sunshine Coast. In fact, just down the road from where I reside. NightQuarter is a massive outdoor space with food trucks. It's got 6 stages for live performance, and they attract the likes of like UB40, James Rain. I mean, no slouches. They've got retail stores, and Michelle caters for weddings, parties, basically anything really. But 2 things especially piqued my interest in wanting to chat to Michelle. One is her unwavering philosophy around only doing what brings you joy in business and life generally. And on a more practical level, I wanted to know how Michelle overcame a cybersecurity attack when NightQuarter's Instagram, which is their number one form of marketing, always scary to rely on one, isn't it, was compromised in a very big way a few months ago. In fact, it was shut down, and she explains how she got through that. So let's go and meet NightQuarter's Michelle Christoe, where I kick things off sounding a little too envious. You, in my view, have the perfect business because I love live music, food, beverages, outdoor entertainment, and marketing. And you have combined all of them to create a business. Well done to you.
Oh, thank you. It's my playground.
Well, it's lovely to meet someone who clearly you're living your passion. I'm assuming you're living your passion, albeit there would be many ups and downs.
No, definitely. But you have to be passionate about what you do. Otherwise, it's work, isn't it?
Well, okay. I'll challenge you on that. I agree. That's a motherhood statement, but I 100% agree with it. But many people say it. Do you really live it?
Oh, definitely. If I had to get up every day, and I work 7 days a week, and that it was work, it'd be boring. It would not have the vitality and passion that you feel in the business.
Totally. 7 days a week. Is that what NightQuarter demands of you? Or is there other things taking up your time?
We don't just have NightQuarter. We also have a tap house, and we're in the process of opening up another one. We're just renovating. So we're always doing something. But NightQuarter itself has functions. It has a lot going on during the week, and we're always constantly working on the site.
You do have a number of businesses. Or what's the criteria for your parent company, I guess, is called Food Focus. What's the criteria for starting a business under that banner?
We activate spaces that aren't being used. So as a business, NightQuarter is known as it's a festival every weekend, but Food Focus is different to that, as you've pointed out.
You activate spaces that aren't being used. So like we hear a lot about pop-up shops, we walk through a Westfield shopping centre and there might be a little pop-up shop or along a certain high street. You do that on a bigger scale, do you, with outdoor areas?
Definitely. I mean, if you looked at NightQuarter, that land itself was swamp before we built on it.
Nothing like building on swamp. No mould issues around there.
Actually, we don't have any mould issues,
Really?
But if you think about it, we had to build pylons underneath every container. So it definitely wasn't an easy feat.
Is that NightQuarter Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast that you're talking about is on a swamp?
Sunshine Coast.
Let's just go back. So let's talk about NightQuarter because it's a fascinating concept. And like I said, one I love. Where did the idea, you originally set up on the Gold Coast. It had to end due to a greedy landlord. Let's talk about that. But first of all, where'd the idea for NightQuarter come from and why did you think it was a good idea at the time?
Well, my husband and I, we were travelling around Europe and Asia, and we saw a lot of markets and piazzas and places throughout Europe and Asia where community actually came together at night time with families, and they ate fantastic food, listened to music, and it really built the community. And we thought about, what are we doing at night time in Australia? What's our nightlife? How do we get together with our community? We don't. We go home, we watch TV, we play on our phones, and we become very antisocial. And so we thought, how can we bring community together? How can we incubate the talent in our communities and get people talking?
That is, I didn't realise that was the genesis of the idea, but it's a bloody good genesis. I've thought about that for a long time. Australians are hopeless at that. In fact, probably most of the Western world is hopeless at community. Like I remember the first time that really hit home for me, where I've gone, that's what's been troubling me. I was in Florence with my family about 8 years ago, family holiday. It was a freezing night in December. We'd walked to a restaurant. We were walking back to our accommodation, and there was a piazza on our left full of, I'd have to say, at least 1,000 young people on a cold Saturday night, right? And I went up to a young guy there and I said, what's happening here? And he said, he was a bit surprised. He said, well, we all come down and we see our friends and we drink wine and we laugh. And he jokingly, well, not jokingly, but he cheekily said our apartments are too small to bring a girl home because mum and dad are there. So we have to meet them down here and, do what we need to do. And then my daughter's actually in Italy just by coincidence right now, and she's sending home photos. And again, there's just streets lined with tables and people. It's not a festival or anything. It's just everyday life. And they're out there and we don't do it.
I know, it really hit us when we travelled. And so we thought, how can we do that? The only thing really we have on offer is pubs. And pubs, well, the majority of them aren't particularly family friendly. So we wanted to do something that was more playful. And I guess my husband comes from a pub background and I come from a marketing and entertainment background. So it was a matter of putting together our ideas and creating the new Australian piazza. And that's how we came to that word night quarter. It's a quarter where people come together at night.
Do you think you've succeeded in that?
Definitely.
Why?
We live and breathe it in everything that we do. I mean, our values are very, very strong. So from the point of inductions with our staff, we run through the business and what we're all about. We talk about community, and I'm talking about being authentic with community. So we spend a lot of time embracing community, bringing community into our fold so they feel that they're a part of us. And if you look at the love that Gold Coast gave us before we moved up here, we achieved that. There was such an outcry when we closed. And we're just in the process of creating that here on the Sunshine Coast. But our values are very, very strong.
Describe for most people who are listening to this, who haven't been to Night Quarter, describe the concept.
In one sentence, it's a festival every weekend. So it has different precincts for different people. So you have our Hawker precinct where we have stages of music. We have pop-up retail food shops. We have retail outlets selling clothes, candles, pet food, a whole variety of things, all run by local small businesses. We also have 5 stages all up. We have a separate live area where we have touring bands come through. So we have everyone right through to UB40 coming through. We have Wonder Amusements. So we have dodgems, games, Jumping Castle, Fairy Floss. And then we have our Enchanted Garden area where we have people can sort of sit and relax. They can read a book, they can play games. And then we've got function areas sort of sporadically across the site, including our backyard area where the blokes can go and they can have their beer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Kid.
I know you've got a podcast supporting the women of this world, but I'm glad you've got a little space for us blokes to be blokes.
Definitely, and we've placed it in between the food and the amusement. So if you have kids, you can bring your kids along and the kids can roam around the whole site. It's a very secure site. So people can come together at the site, they meet up, you can book tables there, you can book function areas. You can come together for really any reason.
Geez, there's a lot of moving parts, aren't there? A lot of moving parts. How many people would Night Quarter employ, both directly and indirectly?
About 400.
Awesome.
So the economic impact is actually quite large.
No doubt.
To this area, yeah. The average person will spend like $200 in the area when they come here. About 30% is tourists. So they come from everywhere across Australia and internationally.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Night Quarter. I mean, it's great for us locals who can go and enjoy it, but it is absolutely a destination, which is there's not a lot of destinations, where tourists and locals come together and do something like that. You started on the Gold Coast. That was where the first Night Quarter was, and you had to close in 2019 due to a greedy landlord increasing rent by 100%. I think I saw somewhere where your rent bill went up to about just over $7,500 a week, which just is exorbitant. Did you not get, and clearly not, but being so good for the economy, where was local government? Where was state government support to say, hey, hang on? I mean, they can't do anything. The landlord's a landlord. That's called capitalism. But did you not get any support, any funding to say, hey, don't go anywhere?
Funding, no. But state, the land was actually owned by state, and they did try and find some other land, but there was none that was suitable. And from a council point of view, council were our largest competitor, offering shows for free. And unfortunately, when you're a private enterprise, you can't run your business when your competitor's running everything for free.
How much of a hit did you take, Michelle?
Millions. Millions. The cost of the move plus also building on Sunshine Coast was over $8 million.
Leaves me speechless. So many questions. How do you deal with that? I mean, the context of that question is like, I am fascinated by small business owners. This is why I do what I do. And I'm in awe of you. How do you...
Thank you.
Well, and I mean it. I mean, genuinely, every time I hear these things, it's like, A, how did you cash flow yourself through that? B, how did you mentally stay complete, not have a breakdown, or did you? And how did you then go, hey, listen, let's go and start it up the road on the Sunshine Coast? I mean, tell us about all that.
That's a couple of questions there.
There's a lot.
We were approached whilst we had Night Quarter on the Gold Coast by Stockland, who own a lot of the land up here on the Sunshine Coast. And Stockland very much wanted us up here on the Sunshine Coast because there is no night economy up here. And so they felt it was important to attract people, particularly young people, to an area. There needed to be something in that space. And so they found some land for us and were very persistent in trying to get us to move up here. We had always planned on coming to the Sunshine Coast, and we were planning a second site. So we had been looking at property for quite a few years, to be honest, when we closed Gold Coast. So we were quite far down that track when we decided to move up here. So it was something that we did spend a lot of time doing and modelling from a financial point of view. We have a very good accountant, and I think you have to have a very good accountant to be able to do what we do. And we've both got MBAs. We've both got a lot of skill sets behind what we do.
That answers half my question. So Stocklands, which is a big development company, Australia-wide actually, they backed you to come up here. So you had a very big partner in finding you the space, the location, possibly contributing financially and making it a little bit easier to come up here and do what you've done with Night Quarter. But then back at the Gold Coast, where you've had to close down, that left you with a debt of $8 million?
It cost us $1 million to dismantle it.
Did you have that in? Tell me when I asked too much, Michelle, but I am fascinated.
No, that's fine.
Did you have that money in the bank? Were you able to just go, okay, righto, we'll just clear that one and we'll move on? Or do you have to go and borrow money, or do you still pay it back? What's...
Yes.
Right.
It's called creative financing. I think if you know and you're very focused on what you want, you can make anything happen.
Yeah, you said that last week when we had a little chat. Can't is not in your vocabulary. True?
Definitely. You can do anything.
Really?
Well, you can. We live in such an amazing country. If you set your mind to doing something, you can make that happen. If you think, it's called creative visualization. I don't know whether you've read that book.
I haven't, but tell us about it.
I was given the book by some monks when I was about 12 years old, and it's pretty much changed my whole life in the way that I think. I visualize where I want to go, and every decision that I make is towards that goal.
Oh, everything you say just leads me to 3 more questions, which is absolutely fantastic as an interviewer. Why did a monk give you a book like that, first of all, at the age of 12?
I couldn't tell you. I was walking down the street in Sydney.
Oh, it was one of those ones, like a Hare Krishna free book type thing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, lovely. Creative visualization is essentially, it sounds like, if I was to be so crass, it sounds like the film The Secret, where you manifest things, which is the whole premise of The Secret, right? Where you go, this is where I want my life to be in 5 years' time. I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to do dream boards. I'm going to cut things out of magazines and do all that, and it will come. Am I cheapening it, or is that the essence of it?
That is the essence of it, I guess. It does cheapen it, but I think that anything that you want in your life, you can achieve. You know, unfortunately, we are in a country that put you down when it comes to ideas and say, oh, you can't do that or you can't do this. And in my belief is that anything is possible. And I think what reinforced that was when I was 19, I moved to the States. And their mentality was very different over there. I was 19, I was running this business. No one ever said to me, can't. Everyone gave me a go and really supported me in everything that I did, and never questioned the fact that at the time I had no degrees, I didn't have experience, but I was giving it a go and everyone supported that.
I think it was Sophie Lovejoy, a past guest of mine. What a fantastic name, by the way. She has a pajama brand, Sant and Abel, and Adelaide girl who went over to Beverly Hills and has got that brand going. I think it was her that said, in America, when you're in a meeting and you have an idea, you're encouraged to voice that idea. Then everyone in that meeting will go, that's an interesting idea. Let's look into that further. Or if they're really into sort of bullshit bingo, they'll go, let's take that idea offline. And but they don't rain on that idea, right? And then they go and explore it. Whereas in Australia, we are more inclined to go, nah. And it's bad. I don't know. I don't reckon we'll ever lose that, because I reckon I hate saying that, but it's sort of, I guess we're having discussions like this and people hearing it is a good thing, but it seems to be part of our culture.
It is very much part of our culture. And I think coming out of COVID, it's been reinforced. We just finished doing a whole lot of surveys, and it's just amazing seeing what people's needs and wants are coming out of COVID. I think that COVID has forced people to change, and people didn't like it. And so now they're going back to all their comforts. They don't want any more change, so they're becoming less risk averse.
Yeah, great. Not. Take a risk, guys. Get out there. I want to talk about that survey, but I want to talk about risk first. And in fact, I want to finish talking about creative visualization. So let me just write down these rabbit holes as we're talking, because I'll forget where we went. But so no such word as can't. Anything's possible. We live in an awesome country. You use creative visualization to bring things to life. So for those business owners that are listening, that are stuck, that think this is all that there is, who have ideas but say the little man or woman on their shoulder says, that could never happen, you're not good enough. Give us a strategy. Give us a strategy.
Those negative connotations, you just don't go there. You have to focus and incubate that positive idea and make it happen in everything that you do. And if you start questioning that and listening to that voice and giving it time, you're just feeding it. It's like feeding a fire. You know, if you want to create a fire, you've got to keep feeding it. If you want to keep a positive relationship, you've got to keep feeding it. It's that sort of thinking. It's not a new thinking. We all have to incubate everything that we do that's positive to get anywhere.
Give us an example. Maybe something you're working on now, trying to bring to life, or something that you have brought to life successfully through your creative visualization technique. Just paint that picture. What did it look like?
Everything. I use it in everything that I do.
Is it just a constant reminder each day? Do you wake up and meditate on it?
No, it's just an approach. You have to live and breathe it. I don't sit there and kind of draw mud maps or anything around it. It's just how you approach and how you think.
It's how you think. It's like every time you think about that idea that you want to bring to life, you think about it in a positive manner, you visualize it, you see it for what it is.
You've got to be persistent. It's that power of persistence. You know, you have to keep going on.
Still feeling a little bit intangible for those who are rational of mind. Well, not for me. But I'm here to I'm sort of here to represent those that might not, you know. I always apologise when I have woo-woo conversations on this podcast. I don't know why, because I'm right into it. But there are business owners out there who can't operate, Michelle, without a marketing plan, without a strategy, without some research, without getting it approved by everyone whose opinions they respect and don't respect. So, like, for them, this is a bit of a leap.
I'm not saying I don't do all of that. I do my marketing plans. I do all my strategies. We have our dashboards. We do all that sort of thing because you have to bring everyone into the fold to understand where you're trying to go. You have to take them along with your journey. And I think answering your question about that visualization, I guess when we say we incubate talent, an example would be you might have someone like a busker performing at a venue like ours. And we'll put them forward in front of people to start building their audience. And then we'll move them on to another stage to support sort of a well-known act. And then we might even get approval to put them in front of a touring band. And so we gradually start trying to incubate their talent. We give them advice in terms of how to perform, what to wear, how to look at their stage. And, you know, before you know it, they start building their career. And to me, it's just about contributing to that journey to incubate them and be part of a community.
That's beautiful. Boy, what a great gift to the busker.
But, I mean, that's what we visualise. We visualise that for them and try and create that. And that would be a very small example. As
a big example, I think, in my mind, UB40 is a big band, child of the 80s, loves 80s music. You have UB40 playing at NightQuarter this year. I mean, that seems big to me. How do you do that? Ask.
Well, we are known as the best regional venue in Queensland. So we have over 20 performers every week.
Incredible.
At NightQuarter. And we book a whole variety of different acts, from DJ acts to cover bands to, you know, your Triple J type acts. So we just had Xavier Rudd. We just had Boy and Bear, for example. We had Ocean Alley. We've had Rufus and Safia. We have a whole variety of acts come through. But at the same time, we also put a lot back into the music industry. So we've just been part of forming a new collective where we are trying to incubate talent across all of the Sunshine Coast. So we've gotten together with all the venues. We're looking at issues in the area. We're trying to keep people in the Sunshine Coast and trying to build their talent together rather than them feeling they have to move to other states to achieve that.
That's awesome. I mean, just live music generally, you know, thanks to bloody poker machines, that sort of disappeared over the last few decades. I grew up in Melbourne, which is, you know, live music used to be the live music capital, and it just disappeared because all the venues are making a whole lot more money through these bandits. So well done for you for doing what you're doing just in that regard alone.
Well, that was also part of why we wanted to build music, was that these bands and performers and musicians didn't really have anywhere to play anymore because the pokies came into Queensland. And so, you know, being a musician myself and being quite passionate about the industry, I wanted to find ways to be able to build their career in the community and getting the community to recognise the talent. I mean, just here on the Sunshine Coast, we have 1 in 4 people are musicians, which is
really
incredible when you think about it. Yeah.
1 in 4.
The USC, the local university, have completed a survey recently and came up with that stat, which is just amazing. There's so much talent.
What do you play?
Sax.
Nice. Oh, that's an instrument from the 80s.
Definitely.
Bit of Excess, bit of Brian Ferry. Dire Straits. Love it. I'm singing in a band this Friday night at the Apollonian in Boring Point.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's an open
Boring Point.
It's an open mic night. It's the only way I can get an audience.
Can I send my husband down there? He's been learning guitar.
Absolutely.
And he's quite passionate about it, keeps hopping up with all the musicians.
Now, let's talk risk. You close down Gold Coast Night Quarter. You come up to the Sunshine Coast and open up Night Quarter in November 2020. Now, if I remember correctly, a pandemic was announced in March 2020, and one of the worst industries affected was the hospitality industry. Again, no such word as can't, but what were you thinking?
We can do this.
I knew that'd be the answer. Dumb question, Tim. Ask something deeper. What made you think you could do it? I mean, I'm in awe. Good on you. And you've done it. And it's going every Friday and Saturday night. Go to Night Quarter on the Sunshine Coast. You've done it. But did at some point, I mean, obviously you developed momentum. Okay, March 2020 comes along, pandemic gets announced. You are well and truly in planning, building, development phase for a November launch.
We actually were supposed to launch in April.
So you put it on hold and sort of read the lay of the land until November.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. We had health department there every day. We had liquor licensing there every day. They saw us as a high risk point, which didn't understand we didn't have COVID here until they opened the borders this year. So it was a stressful environment.
You are in business with your husband, Ian. Did either of you at any point during that 2020 period look at each other and go, oh, oops, or not? You just kept going with that beautiful positive attitude of yours.
Kept going.
Right.
I'm not going to be beaten by health department.
Or a global pandemic. Bugger that. Okay.
Wasn't easy, but no.
So you opened in November 2020. How'd that go?
Went really well. Considering we were only able to operate about 25% capacity during the pandemic. We've very much been sort of embraced by the local community. I think, though, that we're having to change our offer now coming out of COVID because people are behaving differently. So we're sort of working through those changes at the moment, and we have a few launches ahead of us.
Okay, so people are behaving differently. So at what point, you did do this survey, which was all about trying to understand people's needs and wants in regards to their night entertainment post-COVID. Was that the sort of essence of the survey? What format did the survey take? How did you get it out there, and what did you learn?
We sent it out to our database. We received over 400 people responding, and about 30% of those wanted to be involved in focus groups, which we haven't done yet. But I think it's a good, solid sample size. From our database. We have 60,000 people in our database, so I still think that was a good response. From that, we've been able to pull out some things like 16% of people are feeling so anxious they can't bring themselves to go out at the moment, which is very high. And I know we're all aware that there's mental anguish and mental health issues coming out of the pandemic, but 16% of people feeling anxiety, it is very high. So it's something we're very aware of. So we've also seen that people want to go out and have that comfort food. They're not really looking for the new and different so much. They want to have something that's...
Big, dirty burger.
Yeah. Although we do have heart attack burgers and things like that in some of our festivals. We've been working with a software called Mr. Yum. I don't know whether you've heard of it.
I feel like I have. Is that out of Toowoomba?
I'm not sure where he's based. Yeah, but it's a fantastic software where people don't have to wait in line. They can order from the software, scanning it on a QR code on the table, and they get sent an SMS when the order's ready. So we have 20 food outlets, so they can order from all of those food outlets in one transaction. They don't need to wait in lines, so they can sit there and spend the time with their family and friends and be told when the food is ready. So it means that you can enjoy your night out in a space where you have a whole variety of different types of food. And it's just overcomes a lot of those fears. So that's one thing that we're looking to do. And then people are looking things that are light and entertaining. So we've constantly got different types of community events. So you're not paying any extra, but we have some fun things on offer. Like we have the Nutella Festival coming up.
Hello, Nutella Festival.
We just announced it last week and it's just gone viral.
What's that involved? Do you just have to cover your body in Nutella and run through the streets, or is there something more intricate?
No, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah. It's like the running of the bulls or the tomato festival in that Italian town. I think there is something to be said about it.
You've given me an idea there. Maybe I should get someone painted in Nutella.
Hey, there you go. Why not?
Yeah.
I like how you're thinking.
I've got an artist that would do that. Yeah.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
I think you'd have to just working through it.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. Don't ask if
Cover and sprinkles.
Yeah, that's right. Strategically located hundreds and thousands and things. Crushed nuts.
It'll have to be a female then.
Yes, true. Well, they do that body painting stuff, don't they, where they paint, bikinis and bathers on people, and why not? You just have to get Nutella to that right temperature so that it's spreadable, but it actually doesn't melt off. Anyway.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm sure you can.
I'm going to deliver that.
I love it.
Thank you for the idea.
Love it. Is that how you operate? Do you just have your idea radar on all the time and
Oh, I'm an ideas person.
Do you jot them down?
Yes, I have my list every day.
Right.
And I use a program called Asana, and I make my ideas and I spread them within the team. So,
and someone will hook onto it. That's a great idea because some ideas, some will go, oh yeah, I don't know how to do that or whatever. It doesn't suit where I'm at. But someone will kind of go, that's got me all over it. I'll help you with that. It's something in business, Michelle, that frustrates me. I come from an advertising background, many years in large agencies, and the power of the idea when you work in a big agency is quite incredible. And I don't think enough business owners learn that or respect that or even spend time sitting down. I mean, in an advertising agency, it's what you do. You write a brief and then writers and graphic designers and art directors go off and come up with ideas. It's what agencies get paid to do, but we don't see that enough in business. So it's nice to see you sort of just the light bulb come on and go for it.
You have to empower your staff. I mean, we empower all our staff to come up with ideas, and when, they might have a customer in front of them and it's up to them to look after that customer and do what it takes to turn them from maybe being a negative customer to being our best customer. So if you allow people to make those decisions and think of those ideas, you've just got to create that culture. Speaking
of culture, part of the 400 people that you employ each week, I mean, we're talking food truck owners, we're talking performers and buskers and retailers. None of them are part of your brand directly. So how do you get them to buy into the culture of NightQuarter, or don't you?
We have inductions with them when they come on board. We give them guides. We're constantly working with them, doing newsletters with them. When we have, say, this Nutella Festival, for example, we work with them to create innovative products, which we have a lot of fun doing. So we come up with the weird and the wacky in terms of fun products. We come up with fun cocktails and drinks because we've got 8 bars across the site. So we don't just sell beer. We have cocktails. We have, your spritzers. We've got your cocktails in test tubes, in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I even came up with a cocktail that's in a those lolly machines that you used to have the little round lollies in?
Yeah.
I've made it into a cocktail.
I love it. The ideas woman. I love it. In February 2022, the proverbial hit the fan when your Instagram, one of probably your biggest marketing assets, I'm assuming, was, broken into. You had some scammers come along and infiltrate that. Tell us what happened and what impact it had on the business.
Well, it pretty much wiped our whole Instagram account. It didn't exist. They removed everything off it. They managed to get into the account, lock out all our staff, and then change the passwords. I don't know how they got past the second-party authorization. which we had on the Instagram account, but managed to change the whole business into their own name and take all the content off. So NightQuarter no longer existed on Instagram.
And you'd built up about 30,000 followers at this point in time.
So in trying to contact Instagram, freaking out at the same time, they do have feedback forms when something like this happens, but when someone else takes ownership, you have to prove the ownership. And because they took it offline, you couldn't even prove that it existed in the first place. So I managed through the local chamber to locate someone that specialised in this area, and I was very, very lucky. And fortunately had copies of what the Instagram account looked like, had to prove that we owned the name NightQuarter. There was a lot of information that we actually had to provide, which they were able to negotiate through Meta to be able to get us the Instagram account back. It took a week, which I think we were very fortunate to get it back. I've talked to people who have lost it altogether. I've talked to people that have lost it for 3 to 6 months and it's destroyed their business, and it's happening more and more. It's a really concerning environment.
Wow. Did you find out who it was, or was it random? Were you targeted for a reason?
The guy was overseas. I did get his details. I did pass it through to cyber police.
And heard nothing more. Do you know what country, just out of interest?
India.
My Instagram and Facebook were closed down about 3 years ago, and my PayPal was accessed and they were spending money on Google AdWords and Facebook ads on my behalf. And I ended up getting it actually all back, which was pretty cool. But it did, for me, it took probably 2 or 3 months. Not a bad thing to have a break from social media. I don't rely on social media like you do. But what's your advice, cybersecurity-wise, going forward? Did you tighten everything up? What do you say to business owners listening who go, I don't want that to happen to me?
You have to make sure that everyone's laptops are secure, because if someone gets infiltrated on their laptop and you are on a network, that software program can be shared across the whole network very quickly. So I'd make sure that you have a very secure network, that you have your computers and your iPhones checked regularly, because they had planted on my computer. Unfortunately, it hadn't transmitted anything off it, but had planted a software program on there that enabled them to pick up all my passwords and everything. So if that had transferred to everyone's laptops in the network of my company, it would have had a massive effect. Dell
is the major sponsor of this podcast, and they're very big on cybersecurity. And, you know, no matter what brand of computer you use, it's just, it's not going to go away, this cybersecurity thing. And from what I hear and see, it's sort of trickling down to the smaller end of town. It used to be the big guys were the ones that were always, you know, getting attacked. But now it's us little ones who are sort of, I wish they'd leave us alone. What have we done to anyone in India or, you know?
It's happening to people personally. They're copying people's personal accounts now. So you do have to be very, very careful. I'd recommend that you just put whatever systems you can in place, because you can lose your identity very quickly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Hey, just to wrap things up, what a great chat, by the way. Some good stuff's come out of this.
Thank you.
Particularly creative visualization. I'll be doing a bit more of that. You, NightQuarter-wise, I mean, it's a really big idea, NightQuarter, and it deserves to go well beyond the Sunshine Coast. Is your dream to have NightQuarters in every regional city around Australia or metropolitan city? What's it look like in 5 years' time?
I think NightQuarter is its own. We did originally think that we would replicate the model in different regions, but it is a beast of a business. And, you know, we like to keep nurturing it and making it the best that it can be. Our model for our malt shovel tap house, we're replicating those. So with the new site in Brisbane, that will be a replica of what we are doing on the Sunshine Coast. So that's what we'll be sort of expanding. We're looking to have about 6 of those in the next couple of years.
Tap house being like a fancy craft brewery?
Not a brewery, but offering 40 taps with 16 rotating beers. We have rotisseries with local good quality meats, and it's that comfort food. It's a high quality food, and we it's buzzing.
Love it. I'll be putting that down on the list for future date nights. Almost running out of ideas for date nights, so Tap House it is.
Oh, come to me. I'll give you heaps of date night ideas at Night Quarter.
Well, no doubt about that. We've done that. My beautiful Sarah doesn't like beer, so the Tap House might look a little bit kind of...
We have wine and we have cocktails. Got a fantastic cocktail list.
There we go. Now we've got it sorted. And lastly, but not leastly, you have a podcast called Little Grabs. And I know yes. For sure the best way to find other podcasts is through being on other podcasts. So love to give that a plug. Little Grabs, you and a fellow female friend talk all things female, really, don't you? What's the premise of it?
We do. It's just getting communication open amongst people. Sunshine Coast is an area where there's a lot of women that have moved here, don't have friends, and so we just talk about topical issues, and it was our way of getting people talking through COVID. A bit of a passion project, not a commercial kind of... Everything's a passion project. True. You got me. God knows how you find time for it. I mean, between trying to build 6 tap houses, having Night Quarter with 400 staff, doing 1-hour interviews with weird blokes on the Sunshine Coast. I mean, it's incredible how you find the time. I mean, just tell us, I was going to finish up, but time is something that we all lack. What's your view on time and how do you manage? Or are you just literally a workaholic 7 days a week, 18 hours a day? Well, it's not work to start with, but it's a passion. Oh, you got me again. But it's balance. It is balance. I mean, I do a lot of hours, but they're hours that I enjoy spending. Right. I do spend time with friends. I do get away. I do all of those things as well, though. It is balance. And when you do that, are you working? Yes. It's not work. Oh, I've had enough of you. nightquarter.com.au. You're absolutely right. Well, you got to live and breathe what you love. That's beautiful. And if we can create more and more of those type of business owners, then their world and everyone's world is going to be a better place because, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life is what I hear. I love it. Hey, Michelle, nightquarter.com.au is where we should send people, correct? And yes. And what about the tap house in Brisbane? What's that called? Malt Shovel Tap House. So in Sunshine Coast, and the one that we're opening in Brisbane is the ex-post office. Oh, awesome. Love it. Good on you. The ideas woman, Michelle Christoe. Thanks so much for sharing. Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. Well, there you go, team. Night Quarter founder Michelle Christoe. Pretty inspiring woman, really. I felt uplifted after doing that interview. I love her ability not to see obstacles. Wish I had that superpower. Like, I'm pretty good at it, but I could be better. Sometimes I'm glass half full, sometimes I'm a glass half empty. But I especially love Michelle's unwavering philosophy around living and breathing only what you love. Are you like that? Honestly, if you are, I would love to hear from you. Give me a buzz on the Small Business Big Marketing hotline 0480 015 150 and tell us why or what you absolutely love about that beautiful business of yours.
It's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid. Timbo, Leaf here from We're All About Grout in Western Australia. Just ringing to say hello again. I reached out to you about 6 months ago to let you know that bit of paralysis analysis. Well, that's all finished. The business has started. I've got people working on the books. It's all going in a fantastic direction, exactly crack on plan. The amazing thing is my website was up for renewal. Rev 2 was needed pretty badly, and I just listened to Studio One Design. And the reason it got hold of my attention is because basically you've been banging on about videos and handing out your knowledge and giving it for free and just sharing your knowledge. And I just really couldn't get my head around how to actually share it outside of Facebook. So I've got a meeting with Greg next week, actually. So with fingers crossed, things go well. Thanks a lot, Timbo. See you later. Bye.
Hey, thank you, Lee. So glad, mate, that you are getting Greg Merrilees and his A-team of website designers and developers to create you a high-converting website. I know they're a sponsor of this show, but they wouldn't be if I didn't believe in their work. In fact, they did my website over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Getting a website's not easy, but Greg makes the briefing process easy, great communications. His attention to detail is amazing. He's always suggesting things that you haven't thought of. So I'd encourage you to check him out. Go to Studio One Design, that's with the number one.com/Timbo. And it'll take you through a very quick quiz that'll identify what's wrong with your website. Very, very useful. I'll also put a link to Greg's interview in the show notes over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/602. Everyone else, be like Lee. Give me a buzz. Tell me what your website's like, what you love about it, or don't like about it. 0480 015 150. Next week, it's time for us all to face the scary topic of pricing. And we are going to learn how to improve our pricing strategy with a world-leading small business pricing expert. She actually calls herself the pricing lady. I thought this was going to be a boring interview. I was wrong. She's ace. The information provided is amazing, and something that many of us find difficult will become quite easy, i.e. pricing. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, where you will find 601 more chats with successful business founders. If you want to learn how to create helpful marketing, and I encourage you to do so because it bloody well works, buy my book, The Boomerang Effect, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Supplies are running low, so get in quick. This show was stitched together, brilliantly stitched together, by editor extraordinaire Alex Amster. The music bed written, sung, produced by rockstar Lockie Doley, and made possible by the good people at Dell and Studio One Designs, who genuinely care about us small business owners. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.